Selectboard. It is 7:12. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. The meeting is also accessible by remote participation. It can be accessed by Zoom. For announcements, first off, on a week from this Sunday, October 2nd at 1 p.m., there will be a fall trail hike on the new River Road reservation that the town recently acquired the Conservation restriction on, and the trail, I guess, to meet at the end of river end of Coffin Street. And again, this will be on Sunday, October 22nd, sponsored by the Open Space Committee. Learn about invasive species, Native American history, and possible river access at that spot. Special town meeting will be October 24th, back on a Monday, and at 7 p.m. in the annex. As usual, anyone interested in commission or board working for the volunteering for the town, go to wnewbury.org/volunteer, and if you want to get email town announcements, wnewbury.org/subscribe. Our first order of business is a good one, and give me a minute while oh, you have it right there. Okay. This is a letter to the town manager, dated from the police chief, Mike Dwyer, dated Friday, September 16th. Dear Angus, on August 24th, the West Newbury Police, Fire, and Atlantic Ambulance responded to 24 Kimball Road for a 6-month-old infant experiencing a serious medical emergency. Officers from the police department were first on the scene and provided immediate medical care. The fire department and ambulance arrived to take over care and assist with the family and friends who were involved. EMTs from the fire department and Atlantic Ambulance provided immediate life-saving emergency treatment to help stabilize the infant. We recently heard from the family, who were so appreciative of the emergency response and wanted to make us aware that everyone is doing great. I am honored to recognize and commend the following individuals for their life-saving actions on August 24th. Nick Levesque, public safety dispatcher, who answered the 911 call and provided emergency medical dispatching instructions to the mall. Sergeant Eric Forney, Officer Kyle Rowe, Lieutenant EMT Cooper Carifo, Lieutenant EMT Duncan Weaver, Atlantic Ambulance paramedics Timothy Wareham and Benedetto Ferrandi. Sincerely, Mike Dwyer. So thank you to all those individuals. It really takes a lot of people, to sometimes deal with these situations, and great. We had a really good response, and that people were appreciative of the workers of the town and the town ambulance. So thank you to all. Open session. There we go. Our first order of business is application of John Haley to serve on the Conservation Commission, and I believe we have already
He's
gone.
joining us by Zoom.
Oh, is he there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone.
Hold on, we're having an audio issue. Let me hold on, John, just 1 second. Try now.
I'm using my wife's workstation, so you'd probably see me as Deborah Caminiti.
Great. Yep.
Thanks for the clarification. I was trying to figure that one out.
So you may recall John was
Right.
appointed as an associate member, and so has been now part of the Concom for several months.
That's right. I was appointed in June and served a bit of, I guess you'd call it an apprenticeship program where I've attended the bi-monthly meetings. I've also participated in a number of Sunday site visits where we get even more intimately familiar with the projects that we're responsible for. And at the same time, I've been expediting my certification offered by the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions. I've completed 7 of the 8 courses that they offer, and I'll finish that up in October. So I think I'm quickly getting ready for the new assignment, if you folks would consider me.
Great. Well, it's good to see you're coming back for more.
Yeah.
So how
Absolutely.
long term?
It's a great cause, and as I said before, I have the time now to do these types of things, and this is one I wanted to do.
Okay, I move to appoint John Haley to the Conservation Commission, a term ending in June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, John.
That was easy, John. Thank you.
Good night.
So, hey, just before John drops off, so where he's already been sworn in as an associate, he doesn't need to be sworn in again. Oh, he does. Jim's being a wet blanket. He says you have to be sworn in again.
Really?
Okay.
All right. I will call Jim and we'll arrange that.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So our next item is to proposal to name the public safety driveway on the backside of Bachelor Street, Hand Tub Lane. Rock, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah.
You have to come over here.
All right. The West Newbury Firemen's Association, we're in our 100th year actually. It was started in 1922 and it lagged off for quite a number of years. And then back in the early 60s, we rented a hand tub from North Reading, and it was a big hand tub. And so we used that, and we gave it back. Actually, we had both ends. We picked up the garden before out of Portland, Maine. The Portland, Maine VFA had it. It was built in 1882 for the town of Gardner, Mass. And it was, it's one of the few hand tubs that was actually built to go to hand tub musters. To be in the New England League, it had to go to a fire. So we don't know what they did, but it was documented that the hand tub went to a fire. Could have been a brush fire or something, I don't know. Then we had that one and the other hand tub. Then we gave that back to the town of North Reading, who let it decay and threw it away, which is sad. We have reorganized our West Newbury Veteran Firemen's Association. I'm the president. And we have tied in with the Historical Society. So we'll be working together on things with money making, things like that. And we thought that that particular road, that doesn't have a name, would be apropos and call it Hand Tub Lane, because that's what a hand tub is. And hopefully maybe somebody will ask, hey, what's a hand tub? You know, all right, we'll have an open house and we'll show the people what it does. We were the New England League champions for 7 years in a row, which 1974, I think, was the last, 73, 74, was the last year we won the championship. And that particular record has not been broken yet. A couple of hand tubs won it 4 or 5 years ago. No one has won that championship 7 years in a row. And there have been a lot of people through the organization. Wherever we used to go, we get out of Rhode Island, and the buzz of is the garden floor coming? Is the garden? And we'd show up, they're here again, so it was a really good feeling. People really, appreciated it. We'd have a parade. We wanted muster. We start at my house at 214 Main Street, have a parade up to the station. We, before we had this, we had that little grassy knoll, and we used to put the hand up out there for the night, and people would go by and say, hey, it's like they want another muster. And it was a real town event whenever we went out. So we just thought this would be kind of nice to have that designation. We had one in Newbury actually, in the upper green. Where the gas station is as you go down High Street to High Road. You got that gas station. You got that green area where that cut across. They named that one Handtop Lane. That's kind of where I got the idea. I said, that's Newbury has. Well, West Newbury ought to have one too. You can't let them outdo us.
So what, specifically the lane that goes behind the public safety building and then it would stop at the parking area? Is
No,
that
that's
right?
all. It's just for that front part
Just
of it.
that,
It won't be a registered thing or anything like that, but it would have some, if the
Signage.
selectmen voted and everything, I thought, the town manager, and a lot of people seem to think it'd be a nice idea. Just to have something there, because our front door we use is actually on that driveway.
Yeah, I think that's a neat idea, actually. I mean, it's not inappropriate for it to have a name anyway, because
Yeah.
currently it doesn't have a name.
Yeah,
And so when Rock first reached out to me, I did, it's a great idea, and I suggested he talk to Sam, obviously our building inspector who handles street names and things, and so he met with Sam, and Sam confirmed and confirmed with me that there's even though it's not a street per se, there's nothing, if the board were to designate this, it would be a ceremonial designation. You could put up a street sign, the green, normal street sign. Sam said that doesn't have any legal, it doesn't create it as a way, it's not a legal street. But he said it's land that's under the select board's care and custody, so it would be fully within your discretion to do it.
It's like having the Shike
right.
road.
That's right,
Right.
exactly. He had somebody had a parade. He came running down and said, Rock, we're having a parade, Shike. We just won the championship this last monster. You can't have a parade. Yeah, we'll have a parade, Shike. And I said, you want me to parade? Oh yeah, let me go get the cruiser. And Shike let us, and it worked out well. We had just a good time. It's fallen on the wayside. I think we only had 5 league musters this year. The last one was up in Maine. Woolwich, Maine. They had one last year, way up in Maine, like 2.5 hours from here. Didn't make that one, but I still go to. I'm a life member to the Western PFA. I'm a life member to the New England States Veteran Firemen's League as a delegate. So it's pretty good.
So what do you have to do to win a muster?
There's 2 different ways. When we were really going strong.
Sorry, that's off topic, I guess.
It was,
But I gotta know this.
People don't really. It used to be your 3 best streams. So you take your 3 best musters, average them out, and the average, highest average, you win. Now you have 2 trophies. You have for the best stream. Then you also get points for what position you're in. So you could win a championship with points. Like the Gardner 4, the one we had from North Reading, just escapes my name right now. And we won 7 second places in a row, but we didn't win the championship. We were the most consistent, and we won the most money that year, but we didn't win the championship. Back then it was the 3, you get one hand tub would go way out, it'd be good for, get 220 feet or something like that. This year, I don't think anybody's hit 200 feet yet. When we had the last muster we had in front of Pawtucket, the protection #1 of Newbury, actually, that's another point of contention, but they claim people complained that they were getting wet over at the hot dog stand because we were shooting the stream that way. So they claimed they went over 300 feet. There was nothing to prove it, so we only gave them 275 feet to where the fence was. But that's how you win a muster. And there's 2 classes too. Ours is a Class A hand tub. It's a 10-inch pistons, and smaller ones anywhere from 9, usually 9 to 6-inch pistons. Most of them 6-inch pistons, and it's 2 pistons on a hand tub. There's one hand tub down in Westerly, Rhode Island, that has 12-inch pistons. You need about 50 people to pump that one. I mean, that's a big one. That's a deluge when that thing gets pumped. But that's how you win a muster. And it does take a lot of people with judges. You have judges on the pipe platform. All the pipes have to be measured so they don't go, the plate pipes, the nozzles. And then you've got judges at the stand. You have to be out of your chalk blocks before you have 15 minutes. Each hand tub has 15 minutes to take as many shots as you want. And you lose your last recorded string if you don't get the hand tub out of its chocks and the hose disconnected before the gun goes on, the air one goes off. Be 15 minutes of time, so everybody, at that last minute, people are just rushing to get things done, so it's still a lot of fun,
Okay, well, thanks for the explanation. That
I could go on all night, everybody knows it too.
So do you foresee some kind of dedication ceremony or like a
Well, I haven't thought of
demonstration?
anything like that. I'll get
I
together with Jane Wild and
I think
we
it would
could put
be
something
great.
together, and it'd be kind of nice and everybody
Yeah.
know, So I left a couple of messages. I don't know if she's on vacation someplace or not, but yeah, we'll do that. And I think it'd be a nice thing, for both the historical society, and there's nothing more historic than the old hand tub. I mean, you go everywhere. We have, and I'm the president also of the Erie Fire Association over in Georgetown. That's a private fire department that we're contracted by the town of Georgetown.
Right.
And I'll provide fire protection for them. We buy our own trucks, we buy our own building. So matter of fact, we had a money race on Saturday night, for that. So I'm busy now when I was actually working, getting paid actually. But so that's a good idea. I'll work on that with Jane because I'm home.
Great. So,
make a motion.
I'm trying to read the wording. So I move that we name the back entrance to the public safety building off Bachelor Street as Hand Tub Lane.
Second.
All those in favor?
Just a discussion, is that one word or two? Hand tub?
One word.
One word, okay, so different than I was here.
And I was reading from his letter. It's
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Any further discussion?
No, I didn't give it. I didn't give you that option.
Well, call for the vote then.
I did. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
I'll be in
thanks,
touch.
Rob.
Let you know.
Great.
We'll get something and then,
I actually
people
did.
can see.
We'll get DPW to order the street sign, they have an operating budget for street signs.
Yeah, I'll get in touch. I'm gonna look around. Can't get something. I'd love to see something with a hand tub on top of it. I see things like that around. So before we orders it, let me.
Okay.
Oh, a little like medallion kind of thing.
Anything, to show it
Looks
off.
like a hand tub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of. My wife actually wants to know what's going to happen with all the stuff that's in the house and the cellar and everything. I'm like, you got a job ahead of you. I can't open tomorrow. I gotta start. Thank you very much, people.
All right.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye. Our next item, request for select board authorization to apply for an FY23 firefighter safety equipment grant by Chief Dwyer. So this is, there is no required
No match.
matching fee, exactly. The deadline for the application is October 21st, so Angus, have you had to deal with one of
This
these
is actually
before?
would be the third year in a row.
Okay.
to pursue this grant, so it's administratively really straightforward.
It's not too bad, okay.
That's nice.
Tends to be a fairly small dollar grant.
And, yeah, the maximum that a town our size would be
10,000. Oh no.
12.5, it says, 12.5.
Yeah. So do we have to approve the application?
Not the application, just the to submit an application. And that's part of the select board policies. I think it was put in some years ago, just really to ensure that if there are implications of either matching funds or a significant investment of in-kind support, that's a knowing decision.
Things were happening without
Yes,
people's knowledge.
right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the report is due,
Right.
So I make a motion that we approve the request for, or approve the application for the fire grant, firefighting equipment grant.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, so probably just in case other people want to know, our understanding is that the intention here is for ballistic vests. You know, that the concern for stuff like that is partly driven by the things that we've seen happen in schools around the country, and just trying to make sure that officers are as well protected as possible.
But having said that, he didn't say that was in stone. There was a possibility that there was something else.
He's gonna review it with the Board of Fire
Yeah.
Engineers
Yeah, okay.
for this, but that's the idea.
Second?
I second.
Oh, you see, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next item, it's a pleasure to introduce our new DPW Projects and Programs Manager, Christine Wallace. Hi, Christine.
Hello, how are you?
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I think I've met Rick. I just met David and I haven't met you.
No.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Obviously. Thanks.
We've got
So
Wayne-
just some
Wayne joining
background.
us, remote as well.
Oh yes, that's right, Wayne.
The disembodied head of us.
So maybe I'll just give a little background on myself and feel free to interject. This doesn't have to be too formal, but I can already tell it's not too formal. So my official title is DPW Program and Project Manager. I've been here 3 weeks now. I'm doing 32 hours a week to start. I live in Newburyport. My husband Jeremy and my 12-year-old son and our dog Otis. So I had taken when my son was born, I had taken about 10 years off and stayed home with him. The initial plan was just like 2 or 3, and then it just kind of worked out for us. So then once he got a little bit older, went into 4th, 5th grade, I started getting involved with local politics in Newburyport. And I thought, hey, what a great way to get back into the working world, and why don't I become a city councilor? So I got convinced to run for city council in Newburyport. So I'm in my 2nd term as the Ward 4 councilor. Normally we have our meetings on Monday nights, but not tonight. It's actually tomorrow night. So, but ours are first, and it's not every other week, so there will be times where they don't conflict. But obviously, this job is my first priority, if there is any sort of conflict. Let's see. So I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and I still have family back there. And I came out east for school many years ago now, and I went to Cornell undergrad and got a civil and environmental engineering degree. My first job out of college was working on the Big Dig in Boston. I hand drew utility profiles on graph paper, which is a little crazy. And then you do it again and again. You wonder why the budget was so high. But and then I went to Vanessa in Brooklyn, BHB, and I was there for 7 or 8 years. That's where I really learned my engineering skills. I'm a civil engineer and I have a PE. So I was in the highway and municipal group. So I've done road design, worked with various municipalities, done peer reviews for Conservation Commission, zoning boards, 40Bs, and stormwater management was my specialty. So designing that, and then I started to get into some of the LID things, and then some of the bylaw and the NIPI's work. So it fits in very well with what you have going on here. Then I worked at Horsley Witten Group on the Cape for a while, and again, a lot of stormwater and environmental planning. There's a lot of crossover. You know, I guess as you get older in your career, like there's a lot of familiar faces. It becomes a small world, and the municipal consulting world. So I actually know some of the people that are currently working, I think, with the town on stormwater actually. And then after that, I went to MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And so I was actually a planner at that point. I'd gone, while I was at VHB, I got my master's degree in public policy from Tufts. So it was in their urban and environmental policy program. So I went to MAPC and did some planning work, but that was also where I kind of learned a little bit about the political piece. And I was a sub-regional coordinator out in the what they call the Magic region, which is the Minuteman area, greater interlocal something. But so MVPC here has, I think, about 12 or 15 towns, but MAPC has like 101 towns. So they have these sub-regional or sub-regions, and then and they assign different people to them. So I worked a lot with Concord and Arlington and Acton, and so there's some similarities with those towns that I see here. And then that's where I took my hiatus at that point, moved to Newbury with my son, became a counselor, still a counselor for another year and 3 months. That's my term ends. But I did check with the ethics committee and with our city clerk, and there's no conflict of interest other than I can't work on any projects where both communities are directly involved.
Like water. Right.
Well, actually, something like the bridge, right? The Middle Street Bridge, yeah. But I did ask about, because water obviously would be a big one. If there's any specific water projects, right, I would have to recuse myself until I'm no longer a city councilor. Then I think you may have to wait a year or something like that. But I can definitely talk about water policy in general. On either side, so it's not. It's just when it's something specific. So, I was always kind of looking at jobs on the MMA website. I thought it would be good. I wanted to work in a municipality, and then there are a lot of project manager positions out there. So many communities are hiring project managers because there's so many grant opportunities. And there's money out there. So I saw this and I saw the description, and it was almost a little bit like too perfect for my skills. So I came in and with Wayne and Angus, and I think it's going to work out really well. So some of the projects that I have been assigned, and Angus, feel free to jump in at any time, or Wayne. Page School feasibility study. So that's going to be a big one. And I think, are you talking about that tonight?
We are, yeah.
Yes.
Working group.
Yeah.
I can stick.
Of course, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's right after the session.
perfect. And I think that's establishing the working group, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And then along with that is the exterior structural study for the Page School. So 2 separate projects, but very much related. I'm going to be working on green communities, so I've already met with Rick and one of the consultants. I'm getting up to speed on how that all works, and we're meeting soon on the solar feasibility study. So I'll be able to help work with the committee and do whatever needs to be done and to keep that initiative going. And then the Whetstone Greenway. That and the Page School are probably the 2 right now that I'm working on the most. So we're going to be submitting the notice of intent for the improved walkway, which is going to be boardwalk and ADA compliant there. So I met with conservation this morning, and we're going to try to keep that project moving and permitted and figure out costs for it. And what else do I have on my list? Oh, the MVP Action Grant for River Road. That hasn't started up as much yet, but Wayne and I took a drive down River Road, and he showed me all the erosion, and it's a long road. And then just some program type things, so green communities, the hazard mitigation grant program, when that comes back into play. I used to actually write some of those plans when I was at MAPC, so I'm very familiar with that. But now there's a whole new, climate change and resilience component to them. And then, any sort of stormwater assistance I can provide. So that's the summary. And so far, everybody's been extremely helpful and very, very professional. Things are organized well. So I'm just impressed with how things operate in this town. I've worked in many different towns and cities, and there's a wide spectrum, you know. So far so good.
Great.
Great.
So do you think you'll get to a point once your feet are under you to actively be looking for grants that we could apply for?
Yes, that was in the job description as well. So yeah, I mean, you know, I'm learning about what's out there. You know, and Angus is pulling me into these seminars, and because there's a lot for the ARPA funds and water infrastructure, and that can be really confusing. So yeah, I'll start keeping an eye out for them, and then actually working on them as well. I believe Wayne and I will be working on that. That's the idea.
Great.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, let's hope we find a grant that pays for the entire Middle Street Bridge, and both communities get equal.
Yeah, and he's not being facetious.
Right.
With a shovel-ready project and with bridge-specific funding, it's not, you know, it would be fingers crossed or so short, but that's kind of our hope. That's part of why we're pushing so hard to get it shovel-ready, because when that money becomes available, you know, to truly be shovel-ready, you know, we could crowd out some other projects, or you know, Wayne has suggested, you know, there's a scenario where maybe DOT takes it on as their project and does it that way, you know, which is, you know, maybe a long shot, but it's not impossible.
Just on that note, so where are we on the navigable waterways thing? Or
Well,
whatever?
so we DEP didn't accept
The shortened
so
version.
we're
Right.
in the process. And Wayne, are you on? You might have a better figure on the pulse of exactly where BSC
Wayne's
is.
muted.
Well, he's muted, but he's invisible too, so I don't know if he's.
I'm here.
Uh,
I'm here.
Any sense of where, I know that Micah had told us that the Chapter 91 could be upwards of a year, and I think it didn't
That's
formally
ridiculous.
begin
It's just
until they
ridiculous.
rejected our petition to make it the limited review, the 30-day review. So, you know, by my math, that could take us to next spring. Do you have anything more specific than that?
No, it's just that they finished the boring test, the additional ones we authorized in July. With that data they have now, they're now moving forward with the Chapter 91 permitting and stuff. So I mean, we're moving. They did a lot of work on the report. So you know, I don't think we're a year away. I think we might be, you know, a few months away from responding back to their stuff. Then we have to wait on the state to get back to us. So I think they're going to be done in a month or two with the final numbers and the data submitted to the state, maybe even a month, and then we'll be waiting on them.
Okay, actually, Wayne, if you could just elaborate on the additional borings, because now that you mentioned, I don't think I ever mentioned that to you all, but that was something that came out as a recommendation that I think BSC anticipated that they would require more borings to take place, and so we did go ahead and get those done over the summer. So, Wayne, can you round out what I said? Do you have more?
Yeah, I mean, right. So it was a strong recommendation, as in we're not going to talk to you unless you do it. So it was, I believe, for our Chapter 85 review, Angus, if I'm not mistaken, not even the 91 was their equal additional.
That makes sense.
And I mean, I don't know if we agreed that we thought it was needed, but we didn't want to hold the project up any longer than we had to hold the project up, because we need to get the shovel ready. So we authorized the borings, which came from the Mass Works grant, was funded, and I think I just paid the bill today or on Friday. I think it was it like $17,000 or $14,000 to do the additional borings out there, so we could submit that to the state.
And Wayne, what was the purpose of the borings? Was it geotechnical or like?
Yeah, and they don't think we had enough sample of the borings we've taken, so they wanted it additional locations done. So it was twice as much borings that we originally did, I believe.
Wayne, can I, related to the bridge, I rode my bike across the bridge this morning. I don't know if it's significant or not, but the Jersey barriers are kind of not, they've been moved, so you could totally drive vehicles across there now. I don't know if there's a reason for that, or if that's, or should I not worry about that?
No, that's fine. I mean, I could take a look at it again. Newburyport moved those for the borings that were done. They took care of that for us, and they're supposed to put them back in the exact locations. Maybe they didn't put them back in the exact locations they came from.
Maybe,
So we could take
I
a look.
think they might have moved. It was very windy over the weekend. So.
I can take a ride down there.
Yeah, it's been like that for a couple of weeks. I was through there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. No, that's not a problem. We could take a look at it, and if we have to move it out, we could do it.
So you would be recused from anything to do with the bridge, even if it benefited both communities? Or
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's too bad.
Well, as long as I'm on the council, I think if I leave the council, and I'm not saying either way if I will or not.
Yeah.
Then I'm free to work on those projects.
Got it.
But there is some sort of grace period. But no, they're pretty clear about.
Okay.
Because I believe there's an MOA, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
it's lapsed, but it's likely to come back before the council.
Right.
So one of the things that Wayne and I talked about in kind of sketching out what was the short list of projects that would be really good for Christine to jump in on, or sure the ones that she mentioned. We actually favored projects that were earlier in their life cycle, where the Middle Street Bridge has so much history. So as much as we'd love to have her involved, I really don't think it's an issue. Wayne and I have both spent so much time on that project that there's not as much of a value add for someone new. Whereas something like the Page Feasibility, having someone where we're really just undertaking it is such a huge benefit. So we didn't see the bridge recusal as a huge issue, because it's not really a manpower issue as much as it is. The consultants have a lot of work to do. But one thing you realize when you're getting a new staffer kind of up to speed on some of these projects is how much history there is and how much you take for granted that you just kind of pick up in the course of your work, that you just kind of absorb all this institutional knowledge, and then when you're starting with someone who's brand new and just, obviously Page School is a deep well, so to speak. But the number of files and background, both digital, paper files, just to try to put Christine in a position to succeed, to where she can kind of start out knowing what's known, and so get to the new questions instead of going through. It's an unbelievable just volume of information. So that's been. I think it's gone well in the first few weeks, but it's been, it's a fair amount of work to fill that pipeline and to give her all the background. So we've been rearranging for server structures, getting more things to shared servers to try to consolidate some of the files I have on mine or Wayne has on his, to get to more of an integrated file structure. So that there's a lot of just baseline organizational stuff that I think is going to really pay off in the long term by getting us all better coordinated. Another example, and Christine didn't mention this one, but this is also on the list for kind of the first tier projects, is the phone replacement for the
I forgot about that one. Wayne is happy to hand that off.
Yeah, that's a really important project. I have phone issues today. It's almost a daily issue for those of us who work here in the building. But it's not something Wayne's done before. It's not something I've done before. I don't believe it's something you've done before. So she's just someone's got to get their hands around this and run with it and make it happen. And there's samples out there and there's things to work from, and that's what she'll do. But having someone who can focus on that project, because it is important, instead of if it's just me or Wayne, it's easy to see months go by. And it's not that it's unimportant. We just, we're constantly spread thin. So we're being very mindful to not, even though we have a list of 40 projects, and we've given Christine a briefing on all of those, so she's got the lay of the land, but we specifically don't want her to delve into 40 projects. You can't, over time, we that will happen, but we want to, keep her focused on the projects that she's going to be managing, so she can cut through, and not be bogged down by every detail of every project. So.
Makes sense.
And hopefully find money for more projects.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have, we don't have the capacity to spend the money we have. We got the ARPA funds, $1.4 million, and we have a process ahead of us to figure out how best to
Right, the capital.
utilize those monies. But yeah, if there's gaps like Middle Street Bridge, that's one where we definitely need some new money.
So do you have any experience with working with CPCs and CPA funding?
A little bit. I mean, I'm familiar with it. Like in Newburyport, the council has to approve that, and I believe back in my consulting time, I may have worked on some projects related to that. But it's in Newburyport, we have to approve it every year and look at all the finances for it, and so that's kind of where I got some experience there. So
Yeah, I can see potentially in the future, because some of the CPC approved projects are, would fall on DPW to actually
Right.
implement.
well, what's interesting, I mean, every town or city is a little different, but a lot of my tasks might fall under planning, under a different city or town. So, but because you've got the DPW, and I think it's going to make sense that Wayne and I will be working on a lot of these. So,
Good. Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank
I'm sure
you.
Angus and Wayne are super glad to
Yes.
have you.
Yes, my office is at the dead end of the
Upstairs,
second floor.
yeah.
It's a very nice office.
Good.
So part of why I wanted to have this tonight, really appreciate Christine either being here in person, Wayne for being here, is over the next couple of days and week or two, we're going to be sending, similar to what some of you saw earlier today on the Whetstone Greenway, more of like a formal introduction to key people that are part of some of these initiatives to just more formally introduce Christine, because she's not just filling a spot that used to be filled by the former employee. It's a new spot. It's a newly created job. And so we want to make sure people in the community get to know her, get to understand, what function she plays. And I think that people will be, see really quickly that some of these very high priority projects are going to start to have an engine behind them, where we won't. Yeah, so I just think it's going to be great. So we wanted to have kind of a public introduction, as well as the more email outreach of hey, this is our new person, and really communication on these projects that she's managing more and more really will be going through her. And that's going to be a big efficiency for the projects as well as for other senior staff time.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. There are a number of projects that are kind of orphan projects, and you just adopted them. Yeah.
That's all right. No, it's all really good projects. Lots of different funding sources.
Yeah, this
it's exciting.
MVP.
Yeah, it's good for the town.
And the MVP, I mean, potentially nearly a $200,000 project. That's going to take an enormous amount of time and effort to do it properly.
Yeah.
In addition to the volunteer support from the committees, but to have a core staff person who can really take charge of that and keep it on schedule, manage the consultant, keep them on schedule, it's going to be great.
Great.
Okay, next item. So, voters at the May 22nd, 2022 annual town meeting appropriated funds for a feasibility study of the Page School. The select board wishes to form a working group composed of citizens of town and Pawtucket staff officials, charged with offering recommendations regarding how to best scope this work to support and precede the vendor selection process. So basically, we'd like to get some people with some a basic knowledge of the building and its pluses and minuses ahead of time, so that we can create a good scope of work for the vendor that we select ultimately to give us a much more professional opinion what needs to be done for the building. So I'm not going to read all this. So do you think we should give more background, Angus, or do you want to just go to who we think?
No, I think, we've talked about it before, so I think it's, I'll just say, we want to, we're going to be expending a fair amount of money. $85,000 was appropriated for the study, but that's not that much money considering what we're looking to get done. And so to get a thorough evaluation, we want to, getting that work scope right is so important that we think it justifies the extra effort we're making with this working group to make sure before we put that out to bid, we know that we're asking for everything we need and that we don't go down the road with a consultant and get to 4, 5, 6 months in and have someone say, well, did you think to look at this? Oh, shoot, we forgot. And interestingly, we found the scope in the contract that preceded the 2009 study. It's very lean, very thin, almost no detail. So we're not starting from scratch because we have other good precedents and we have a lot of institutional knowledge.
Oh, the contract before the other study, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
It was less. It was like 2/3 of a page. I mean, it
Wow.
really didn't specify. Whereas we need to specify: are they looking at mechanical? Are they looking at this? And so.
Well, at that point, you could have just said everything.
right. So I think this will be time well spent, and also, as you see within the scope, part of what we're going to be working on is populating a web page on the site where we can start to post some of these prior studies, not just the 2009, but there have been a lot of studies along the way. I found one that what Fitzmyer and Tachi had done in, I don't know, 2017 or 2016 that was very focused on, I think, like ceilings and roofs, like a whole technical study just on that aspect of that building. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure a new vendor, when they're brought in, is before they even put pen to paper, that they are given easy access to all that background. So it's going to be good.
I just wanted to say, Chris, check, make sure you look at all the invoices following the flood of a few years ago, because
And you probably don't know anything about the flood.
Wayne filled me in a little bit, and actually, I think I saw them somewhere, but that's
okay, but this was a huge project in and of itself, but it wasn't a project. We just had to, we got to fix so in a nutshell, the fire pump ran for half an hour. So you should know what happened. So the fire pump ran for half an hour at 1,000 gallons a minute, and it was a 10-degree night, and it went off on the 3rd floor. So everything below that, so 30,000 gallons went in the building in the middle of the winter at night, and Ben Janelle finally got there and got it turned off. But so it went. One of the sprinkler heads went off because it was, it froze and it was cold. So there was way more work done through it but there were no studies. It was just like, oh, this wall's bad, we're gonna do this. This wall's bad, we've got to replace the piping in here. So there wasn't any particular plan. It was just fixing things as they came along. So there wasn't a scope of work that was delineated immediately after the flood. It was done sort of catch as catch can, and we were trying to get the building open, and so, but everything that needed to be addressed was addressed, but it wasn't, like I said, there wasn't some overlying plan. It was, we keep finding problems that before all this has got been undermined by the water, so forth and so on. So the only way really to tell in a lot of those things that were affected by the water, and it went down all the way to the basement, was is to look at the invoices, and you'll see what actually was fixed, because there was no, we have this, 30-page report on we need to fix all these things. We didn't have that. We're just doing what needed to be fixed in order to make the building operable. But a lot of things that were, you might say, problematic before that actually got addressed because of that. Especially a lot of plumbing things and stuff. The walls got ripped open, and this pipe is terrible. So we don't even know where it goes. So a lot of things got addressed that were not in some master plan. So I just thought you should know that. Yeah.
That's good. Good to know.
So, Archie, there's probably a few issues lingering that weren't. I'm guessing there probably are some things in that building from that flood that didn't rear their head at the time. I mean, obviously, if they did, you would have fixed them. But
I don't. Not from water damage. I don't think. No, I don't think it exacerbated anything. A lot of things that were, even things like doorways on the first floor, where the offices are, kind of the sills were replaced, and lintels over doors, and old asbestos linoleum was, that's underneath the new floor. So then because the new floor had buckled. This was after things had been redone. So it was a new floor, but there was actually asbestos linoleum under that. So a lot of stuff got remediated that just because it had to be at that point. But
What year was that?
That was 2018.
Oh, was that recent?
Yeah. The flood was. I remember it. It was it a Sunday, Saturday?
it was right before you
right
were
when
hired.
Because so I was interviewed. I think my finalist interview was a Saturday. You called me Monday after your meeting, I believe, to extend the offer, and the flood happened in between. So I was saying, their judgment was clouded. By the time they offered me the job, they were so distracted by this calamitous flood. That's how
There were parents at every meeting with pitchforks, when is the building going to be
right
open?
around, probably January 4th, January 5th. So, and I started July 2nd. So, and by the time I really had no idea. You told me about it, but until I got here, I had no idea
The extent of it was.
You can't really.
Yeah, and it's a bigger school than you realize too. I mean, when I saw it up close.
So what I saw kind of from July on was a lot of picking up the pieces in terms of trying to get insurance reimbursements and some of the paperwork side, but a lot of that really brutal, like the repairs themselves and what needed to be done and finding the money and dealing with the parents. That was all in the 6 months between that was when I was hired and when I actually started. So
Andy and the Board of Selectmen. So what was it?
So yeah, we can run detailed reports. That's a really good suggestion. From the accounting, we would have
I see.
all of the itemized every single penny in and out.
Yeah, I'm sure like the insurance claim would detail all the invoices. Yeah,
that's a great suggestion.
So this is all to be done by the end of the year?
Just to get the scope right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Good. So the residents, is that still?
I reached out to Nathan and he agreed he'd be happy to participate once he understood it was a finite term. Same with Elisa.
Yeah.
So if there's a second resident you want to name, that's going to be up to you. But Nathan's available. Nathan was a former longtime FinCom member and was a capital improvements committee and a teacher, as it turns out.
I think that's a good group. I don't know that we need another resident. What do you guys think?
So we have
1,
1, 2, 3,
6,
4, 5, 6, 7,
7, 8, 9, including
9.
Christine.
I think that's enough.
Yeah.
So we already approved this charge.
The
right?
charge is approved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
seeing as I'm on the working group here, I probably need to recuse myself from a vote.
So
Okay.
what are we voting on?
Just the people.
Oh, okay. All right, so I move to approve the composition of the working group as laid out in the packet.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Wendy?
Yeah, I said
No. Angus is looking at it.
I didn't
Oh,
hear it
sorry.
either. I didn't
All
hear
right.
it. I think you thought you said aye.
No, Jim vouched for me.
And I abstain.
Yeah. So when does this start? When is week 1?
You know, I think this is week 1.
Okay.
In the earlier draft that Christine had written up, she put in dates. I said, "Oh, it's week 1, just because things could slide."
Yeah.
But you know, we understand that it's incumbent on us at the staff level to prime the pump and to give the working group members the raw material they're going to need to jump right in.
Right.
So that means some of these materials we've shared, you know, on internal servers. You know, we want to give Christine, you know, some time to kind of review all that, figure out what's most important. Maybe week 1 is maybe next week. We're going to reach out to people this week, but I think, you know, we want to make sure that they're all, given all the background,
Sure.
and it's very easy for them to get what they need to understand what needs to be done.
Week 0.
Yeah, we're in week 0.
All right.
But we will send an email to the working group, so we'll be ahead of the game.
All right.
Well, that way too, they can also email me any questions
Yeah.
or ideas they may have, or
Right.
something that they remembered. Might be in the basement.
In terms of, we can talk about this later, but in terms of file sharing, I wonder if there's a way. I mean, right now we've been envisioning posting key documents to the web, but as you know, there's 1,000 documents. I don't know if we use a Dropbox or something. That way, anyone can just kind of sift through, and I don't know. We'll think about it. But there's, you know, Greg Haddon was meticulous in his record keeping, and it's all broken down in very organized files and subfolders, and so it's great if you know what you're looking for. But to peruse all of that would take many hours of time. So this would be good. Thank you.
Is there anything else I should stay for?
When we get to the warrant, when we get to the issue of the Green Communities Grant matching funds,
I did fix it with the number.
okay, I have new information
Okay. Great.
that is not, in my mind, good information, in terms of happy information. So it would probably be good for Christine to hear that. And I'm not quite sure, quite honestly, based on the information I have, I'm not quite sure how to handle the article.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. Well, that's next.
Okay.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so that is, what's the article?
Article 10?
Article 10, okay.
Okay, what's the deal?
So, I'm trying to recall exactly how we arrived at the figure of $16,500 as being an appropriate number that would probably be a valid number to get us for us to win the grant award. Then on Friday, I was talking with or communicating with Lori Timmerman, who's our National Grid municipal rep. She actually will be transitioning to another position, so we'll have somebody else, but she's been very helpful. And she mentioned a metric that had never, I think she had just recently heard that this was an important metric. It's basically cost the green community dollars, the green community program dollars ratio to energy saved, energy units for 1 billion BTU. And based on the numbers that we have at this point, we're we're almost 4 times higher than that number. That's sort of a goal of the program. So, and this was brand new information on Friday as I was going out the door for the weekend. So today I spent a little bit of time just plugging in numbers and figuring out where. It wasn't that much work, but I just had to get my head wrapped around it. Now, that metric was based on the previous very competitive grant series. And it may not be as competitive this time around. Lori had observed to me today that most other communities seem to be putting off their grant applications till next spring's round as opposed to applying this fall. So that metric may be totally different because of that, because it may just not be very competitive. There'll be money and there won't be towns looking for it. And you know, maybe we'll get some additional consideration because we didn't get an award last year, and I'm sure they're sensitive to that communities feel like they're getting something in return for being a green community and participating in the process. There is, and I don't think we can work this into this particular time around. Angus, you and I talked a little bit about this on-bill financing, and where National Grid can offer a 0% loan on some portion of the funds needed, and you pay it back on your bill over a period of time out of the savings from the project. But that is technically, I think that's considered to be a loan. It's 0%, but it's, you know, you're taking an obligation that you have to pay in the future. You know, you're accepting money that you have to pay back in the future, which probably would require town meeting approval. I don't know if
well, and I had asked the question of Tim.
Yeah.
At a general before we got the specifics, because this isn't something. There's not like some pamphlet that National Grid gives you. It's custom to each project. So when I sent it to Tim, it was more of a general question. But I was thinking back, Rick, to when we did the EV charging stations, and there was the cloud plan that you got different pricing if you spaced the purchase of the data plan over 5 years. And I remember, and I'm sure you do, there was specific language in the Warren article that specifically kind of authorized a 5-year, because we were committing to 5 years of expenses, and so that needed to be specific in the town meeting article. I don't know if it's a little different, but yeah, I think town meeting would need to specifically authorize that. I don't know if it changes quantum of vote. I don't know if it means I'm sure that could all be figured out prior to signing the warrant.
So other information that sort of fits into this whole issue. I think we're going to all be shocked at what we find to be our new utility rates going forward. They're going up by approximately a factor of 3. And that's because most of the electricity in our region is generated by electricity. And the public utilities are required to go out to bid twice a year on a schedule for new rates. They can't do long-term contracts to try to get the best long-term rates. And as a consequence, and I don't know all the logic that went into figuring that out years ago, or determining that requirement years ago. But what I've been told is that, well, for instance, for this building, the current rate for the energy costs, the basic service costs, not including transmission, all these secondary things, but just for the energy itself, we're currently paying 10.3 cents per kilowatt hour. And the new number, I have it in an email I got 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago, but it will be something like 33 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's going up. That number is going up maybe a little over a factor of 3. And starting in November.
In November.
Yeah. So the rates, I think, go November through May, or I'm sorry, November through April, and then May through October. So 6 months.
So what we budgeted for power is not going to be adequate.
Well, now that even it brings up another complication, which is in this case a favorable complication, because our solar field, we get credits for the energy generated from the utility at the utility rate. We have a long-term negotiated agreement that's incredibly favorable on what we pay Amoresco for the energy. So, whereas, we've been the town has been receiving a benefit averaging, say, around $60,000 a year. That benefit, I won't try to speculate on what it's going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if for the next 6 months, we go at a rate that, is at least a half again higher than that. I don't know that. I mean, once everything settles, we'll know. But it's all complicated.
That's not fixed, Rick?
Well, that's fixed, but it was at a very favorable rate to begin with, and it increases at 2% per year.
Oh,
the rate that we pay Amoresco for the energy that they provide goes up at a rate of 2%.
Okay.
So we're now, I don't remember what the number is right now, but we might be paying 9.5 cents or 10 cents a kilowatt hour right now, but it's going to continue to be that we pay them, but we're going to be credited back by the utility at whatever the utility is charging. So we might pay 10 cents a kilowatt hour and receive back 33 cents a kilowatt hour. So if we could do everything, invest in everything like that, we'd be doing really well.
Yeah.
but and I don't mean to complicate things by throwing this stuff out, but this complicates this whole topic.
But we can't change the article though, right?
Well, that's the problem at this point.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess it's your warrant.
Yeah.
Until you sign and post it, it's your warrant. You have closed the warrant. So, and when you did that, you kept placeholder articles. You didn't have specific language. So I guess it depends on how, if you wanted to refine the language, but it's the same basic idea to do this project and to get matching funds for this project. I think you have a lot of latitude on getting the language right. The warrant's not posted.
So
the
refresh
dollar.
my
I'm sorry.
refresh my memory. Wasn't there? So I guess I'm trying to get all the little. You got a lot of pieces going on here.
yeah, and there's still
So let
trying to
me try to simplify it. Is it to make the application more viable, we have to throw in more sweetener. Is that your point? That we have to move from 10 to 16? Is that right?
Yeah, the belief up until Friday was that going up to 16.5 would put us in really good shape.
Okay, but what do you mean up till Friday?
And then on Friday, or actually on Friday, I was given this metric that was a target metric.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to look. I got it Friday afternoon. Didn't have time to look at it. Today I looked at it and realized that the metric is the target was $155 per million BTU, and the numbers we currently have, the only way to achieve that metric would be for our number to be somewhere between $46,000 and $47,000, which is a non-starter. And so the question, it becomes a little bit of rolling the dice. Do we just go with 16.5 and hope that that there's so little competition that we get the grant, coupled maybe with the people who make the decision about who gets grant awards, looks and sees that we got stiffed last year and we don't want West Newbury to bail out of this program. So we award the grant to West Newbury, or do we then sweeten it a little bit? Or, I don't know quite how to handle it. There's a lot of variables that there's just no way we can really define right now.
Oh, okay.
So are you expecting any new information that will help you, refine it? Do we have everything we're going to get?
I can put a question out. I think we're still within the deadline where I can put a question out on the, there's I can ask questions of the green communities folks up until a certain deadline, and then after, they answer, those are public questions, everybody can see them, and then afterwards, you can't ask anything more. So I can put something out tomorrow, and I don't know when I'll get an answer though.
Okay, so wasn't there other funds left unexpended from part one of this project? Am I wrong about that?
You're not
That's
wrong
right.
about that. The problem, and they didn't have a sunset date. The problem is that the motion that was approved last fall, approving the $10,000 specified in FY22 grant round, instead of FY23. So while that's a minor little thing, that's part of why I recommended to Rick that we do a new article, just because it's cleaner.
Yeah.
But yeah, those funds were appropriated; they were not expended. So there is some. So even if, let's say 16.5 is what town meeting appropriates, there's also some additional funds within a June of 2020 article that are not expended and that are not specifically, intended for anything. That June of 2020 article that defines 5 or 6 known facility improvements, but had language that covered other unforeseen, facility improvements and repairs. Those funds sunset at the end of this fiscal year. So there's certainly other things that could be put toward, but some amount of that funding could be added to the 16.5 if that was what was going to be important for the grant. Obviously, we don't know what. There are additional funds.
Did the FinCom vote on this already, or no?
They did not, because the narrative that you have in there that came in last week. So I think it had come in timely for if FinCom had met as scheduled on Thursday.
Yeah.
But since that would have been the only item on their agenda, Chris Weil said they would forego last week's meeting. They're meeting this Thursday, so they'll take it up this Thursday.
Is it Thursday or is it tomorrow?
It's
29th.
Thursday.
It was last Tuesday.
They just sent me the agenda. It's for the 29th.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, but then I looked online and I thought, FinCom, September 27th, it says right here.
Okay.
On the
I
town
did
calendar.
that.
Okay, all right. Well, it's,
I got confused in my own head.
okay,
I always was saying the 29th, but I was thinking Tuesday the 29th.
okay,
In my own personal
Okay,
calendar.
okay,
I had
all right,
Tuesday,
okay.
So
okay.
I think
All right, no problem. I just,
But I'll fix it. Shoot, every mistake comes back. I'll come back.
No agenda was posted.
Yeah,
Well, so.
okay.
So then what is the decision point here? What do we?
Yeah. So what do we do?
Well, I guess if there's some other funds still available, I'll post a question, which I think that is still an open option, and I'll have to think about how do I want to phrase things, and then I guess in the worst case, if town meeting approves the $16,500 and we put more money in, but it isn't enough, then we're not awarded the grant.
And the total cost of the project is double the 16.5, or
I'm sorry.
what's the total cost of the project that we want to accomplish?
Oh, it's $67,000. Yeah. So, and there's $10,500 of utility incentives, and then the balance would be Green Communities funds, which is what we'd be applying for.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it's $40,500 of Green Communities funds.
Okay, but we can't just say on your grant. You can't say we're gonna go for 16.5, and maybe we'll throw in a little more.
No, we have to.
You have to.
Right,
You have to give
right.
You have to use a number.
Right, well, so we have 16.5 here, I guess, there's still some funds left in that, building improvement article from 2 years ago, and I don't know how much is in there, but, that is money we could, if we learn more information between now and the day the grant application is due, we could add some amount additional, and I don't know how much is there, and I don't know what we might feel was appropriate, but we could add more funds when we make the grant application, up to some limit of what's available.
But we would still only request 16.5.
For
At
now,
this time.
yeah, I guess, yeah, I just wanted to process this so
Yeah.
nobody was surprised.
Yeah.
I quite frankly was surprised when
I kind of would say, just so we have some kind of direction, that okay, to make it a round number or something, we use like 3,500 of the other funds to make that we throw in 20. Does that seem like a reasonable number, or you don't know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I really can't speculate. And the reason why I talked about, energy costs in general was trying to explain how every kilowatt hour saved now or saved in the future is going to make all that much more difference.
So why wouldn't we just use all that we had already authorized? Was it 10,000 or whatever it is?
Well,
Why would you
no,
just-
that 10,000 is no longer
that
available.
we can't use.
Yeah,
So
that-
what's
that-
3,500?
It's from a different
Oh,
Right.
article of not related to green communities
Okay.
or any specific. It was just sort of general building fix up
Oh, I
money.
see. Okay.
Yeah, so this is, there's should be a fair amount of money. So the remaining balance, this was from Article 3 of the June 27th, 2020 town meeting. And of the listed projects, public safety lighting is complete, council on aging patio furniture facade complete, old DPW garage roof is ongoing, town offices HVAC upgrades phase 1. This is where the matching funds for the phase 1 came
Yeah.
from. That's complete. So as of about 2 weeks ago, there was a remaining balance of about $35,000 in that article. We were going to pay, or we have since paid, the paid school elevator repairs that we thought we were going to go for reserve fund transfer. We paid out of here instead. That was just under $13,000. So the remaining balance of a little over $22,000 that, so up to that amount could be made available.
Yeah, okay.
But we have to tell the
At
voters
the time the grant
that.
application.
Right, which is October
Oh, yeah,
7th.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, we have to tell. I don't think we can I don't think we're being completely transparent if on the article we say 16.5, but we're actually going to use X plus 16.5 plus X. I think we should delineate that to the voters too.
Yeah.
But so there is some, but well, Rick, why don't you see if you can feel them out one more time to see what might be good.
Yeah. So far, communication has been with National Grid, not with the Green.
The grant,
Communities.
right?
Yeah.
Are they very close to the vest, or do they tell you stuff?
Well, when I call and ask questions, they always, they don't tell me a whole lot.
Okay.
So, and that's for a legitimate reason.
Yeah.
Everybody should have the same
But
information.
sometimes grant people they
Yeah.
you read between the
Yeah,
lines.
yeah,
They give
but-
you some information.
Yeah, they tend to be pretty cautious, but no, I understand exactly what you're saying. So.
I have to think it would count in the town's favor to have applied last year, and obviously the town's got a terrific track record. numbers so they know, it'll get done. I think would be, gotta try.
Right. Yeah. Well,
You know.
yeah. I
And
agree.
if
We
we
have to
try
try.
and don't get it again this round, maybe we look at it as a locally funded project next spring.
Yeah. Wayne, I don't know if you have any thoughts after.
No, I mean, I would just, if you want to just do the max and say up to $22,000, but then that allows us to use the whole article, but not have to use it if we don't want to, unless you just approve a limit. We will approve up to $25,000 for the grant, leave it like that, then we use whatever we believe. That allows you to vote now on it if you cap it at a limit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 25. No, I can't do that really. Well, I can do that pretty easily. I can figure out where that would put that ratio pretty easily.
Okay, I don't want to lose my thing.
Yeah. So even with 25, we're still, it's still 2.5.
But I think, Rick, we need to ask ourselves, is putting $47,000 down on a $67,000.
Yeah, no, and I was never suggesting that was what we ought to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's why I said that's a non-starter. But okay, well.
So can we decide next week? Is that gonna, when's the grant deadline?
A week from this Friday. Yeah, a week from this Friday.
And when do we need to post the warrant?
The warrant's gotta be posted, the 10th, where that's a holiday, the prior Friday, the 7th.
Okay.
So it needs to be kind of ready to be signed next Monday.
So 25,000 out of 67,000 that's 37% of the project. If we did 25,000, we're paying a pretty substantial chunk of the thing.
Yeah. So why don't we set a maximum of 25, and I'll try to get more information, and I'm hoping that, in an ideal world, I'd learn that, oh yeah, you should look okay. They'll never tell me that kind of information. They just won't tell me
Right.
that way.
So then the idea would be to refine it for town meeting vote for the motion.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, it is 37% is high, but if you look at the energy savings we could achieve from doing that, longer term, it would be a good investment.
Right. Yeah. No. This is definitely it's a long-term investment.
The payoff is not quick on this particular project because it's not a lot of kilowatts involved. In other words, the estimated annual savings is 3,300. So 67. So
But
if
is
you
that
take
based on
off
the
the
old rate?
incentive of 10,000, it's 57,000 divided by 3,300. So that's 50. Like they've got it calculated here. 15 years. It's a little less than that. It all depends on how much. It's better than that for us if they're paying some of that 57,000. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. understand those.
This could pay off on the total cost of the project.
Yeah, so Archie, understand that those numbers are based on our previous, or actually on our current cost of energy.
Okay, per kilo.
So.
Well, this is going for 25 cents a
Yeah,
kilowatt.
because that's 10.3 cents for the energy, and then the balance is the other 14.7 cents is, transmission,
Oh,
distribution,
okay.
all that.
All
other,
that, okay.
If you look at your, the line items on your electric bill, you'll see.
Got it, okay.
Something like 8 other line items that total up to close to 15, 13 or 14 cents, something like that.
So
If that goes up 3 times, then it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, well, that part won't go up. I mean, those other 7 or 8 line items won't be going up.
Right.
Just the basic service fee, the basic service charge for energy.
Yeah.
And
All right,
that'll be going up by roughly a factor of 3.
Yeah.
So Wendy, you want to do a motion or?
Yeah. So are we moving on the article itself? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think we're looking for a recommendation on Article 10 with 16.5, and then, it's up to you, but I don't think you need to do anything in the article about this other. I think you want that in the narrative, and you could put it in the motion. And I think it's important with the FinCom meeting this Thursday, and I'm glad that you resolved it tonight, because I think that gives them the information they'll need.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need it in the article, because
Okay.
that money's already appropriated.
Yeah.
You just want it in the narrative.
So I just have one last.
Yeah, but
What-
it has to. We have to tell people of it.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
can't be hidden. No.
So the numbers that I was given for the energy cost, I believe that those are already approved by DPU, because that's the way it was presented to me by National Grid, is like it's fait accompli. But I don't I didn't go back and say, so is this your DPU approved, or is this what you've asked DPU for? And that could, that could be different.
Okay.
I think it is the DPU approved rate, but I don't know that 100%.
All right. I move that we recommend Article 10.
Second.
Okay, so what's it reading?
It says 16.5.
Okay, that's okay. It's just the way it's been crossed out. It's kind of weird. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and then just for the record, there would be an additional 8,500 from the prior June 2020 warrant article for a total of 25,000 match. I'll make sure that's made clear to FinCom.
Okay.
Rick, I don't know, I don't want to make work for you, but I don't know, do you want to just throw in your narrative, like add a sentence to that?
Yeah, I'll try to get to that. Yeah.
So if not, I'll let them know Thursday.
Yeah. No, I'll do that.
Okay. Let's crank through these other ones.
So you've already made your recommendations on all of them. Obviously, with some new information on the zoning you may want to discuss, and beyond that, you have the markups from town council that were just received earlier today. Like I said in my email, no curveballs in there, but you may have questions.
Okay, I have like a few questions.
Thanks.
They all say from available funds. Why aren't we specifying where they're coming from?
In the warrant, they all say available funds. It's usually the motion is where you put the specific funding source. You can do it differently.
That's not how we used to do it. I have to
Well,
say.
it isn't. That's all I've ever known. I've worked with you. The warrants have always been available funds. It's the motions that have specified.
It used to say
Good night.
raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds. So that
Oh, that's true. But raise and appropriate, that's a different thing. I mean, we're not, that's actually putting it on the tax rate.
right.
So I don't think that's anticipated.
Yeah, so, for a special town meeting, it should all be,
There shouldn't be any.
Right. Yeah, unless we're doing a budget amendment. In that case, that would be the raise and appropriate.
Well, okay, see, you already changed the one that I was concerned about, Article 3, because it said available funds,
Yeah.
and that one should not say that.
Yeah, well, and that was a question I had asked Tim, and in the original draft warrant, I flagged that specific language and asked him, because I knew, this is existing money, we're just moving into a different
Right.
bucket, but I wanted his advice on whether that was appropriate to name the specific account, where it's not like a stabilization account or it's a finer grain account. It's part of the general ledger, but it's not like a.
Okay, no, but that
But I
was
think
one.
it's
I
just
think
that-
that's the one that triggered my thinking
My
about
other
it.
question to Tim, that came through in his response today was, is that considered an appropriation, even though the $193,000 isn't being spent? And his answer is yes, because it's appropriating it to the housing trust, and even though it will sit there until it's further appropriated, it's no longer in the realm of town meeting at that point. So it is an appropriation.
Okay.
So that'll raise the question with FinCom of, do we now add to that summary table we put at the end with all the accounts and the balances? Do we now add a column for an inclusionary housing fund that show it being zeroed out, even though that's never been part of the prior table? So we'll figure that out.
You love tables, Angus. You can revise it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. It's just when you put it in and then it's not in for the next 10 years. I mean, for instance, we've never put in on that table, we've never put in the septic loan revolving fund.
Right.
That's the one expenditure. We never put it on a table because it's never been there.
So these author comments, that's Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, most of those are things we already do, publishing
Yeah.
the amendments and things.
So, anyone have any particular comments they want to make about any of the other articles or the changes?
no.
Okay, Article 15. After reading Sam Joslin's comments about his thoughts about the zoning amendment, I have I take the basic comment being that his very last sentence, as the enforcing authority, this would be very difficult to enforce, as each business would have a special permit with unique conditions that would be mine to monitor and enforce for the life of the business. So he has a major, I would say, problem with the broadness of this zoning amendment as it's laid out here. So I'm kind of reluctant to. I don't think I could support it if this is the way that the person who knows a lot more about zoning and is the enforcement agent of said zoning bylaws finds it difficult to deal with this. I don't think that's a good idea.
Did we already vote on it?
Yes.
Guess we can reconsider.
What's that?
We can reconsider that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I guess, there's a side of me that says this was worked quite a bit by the people who worked it, and it seems like this is the best that can be come up with. I don't know. I just sort of look at it as going to either live or die on its own merit at this point, and the town ought to have a chance to vote on it.
Yeah, the planning board has a public hearing next week on it, so we'll get
Correct.
resident input from there.
And of course, I did provide a copy of Sam's memo to the planning board chair, so that'll be part of the materials for their hearing.
So I guess the newer information too is that even if the new revised residence C district special permit will even if that passes town meeting, the Soldiers and Sailors building is a non-conforming structure as the lot and everything else. So that even if it's okay, if this goes okay, it doesn't mean that the uses that might be possible to someone that purchases the building would be allowed, because it hasn't been used for a couple of years. So now any use that it was being used for before could not be grandfathered in. So anything that would be proposed for a business use for it would have to go to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, see, I think anything other than a residence would have to go to ZBA at this point, right? It's an existing building,
Even a residence.
Anything, because
even a residence,
because it's 2 years of no use, so there's no grandfathering protections on a non-conforming structure.
Okay.
it has a lot of non-conforming
I guess
issues.
I thought that because it was an existing structure within that district, that it could be used for the. I could be 100% wrong, but
I think a non-conforming structure loses any grandfathering protections after 2 years of non-use.
So it's non-conforming structure and non-conforming lot.
Non-conforming lot, yeah, and it's both the structure and the lot are non-conforming. So,
okay.
yeah, Archie, that the write-up that I handed you before, do you still have that?
Yes.
That's got, and I emphasized the language in the bylaw at the bottom of page 2, the underlying sections. That's from the existing zone.
Okay, so non-conforming uses, I'll try to read it fast. Any lawful building or use of a premises existing at the time of the passage of this bylaw, or any building or use commenced within 6 months of the date or issuance of a building or special permit issued by the Planning Board or Board of Appeals in accordance with the provisions of this bylaw, before the first publication of notice of the public hearing on the conform. That's all boilerplate, but if authorized by the Board of Appeal, may be enlarged or changed to a specific use, provided, however, that the Board of Appeal shall not grant such approval unless it shall find that such an expansion or change shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use or structures. So that's let's read that again. The Board of Appeals shall not grant such an approval unless it shall find that such expansion or change, so a change in the use, shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use or structures. Existing structures that do not meet the setbacks may be expanded or extended along the existing non-conforming building setback without Board of Appeals approval if said expansion or extension does not, that's just about expansion. So the basic point is that it would have to be a judgment that this kind of a business is no more detrimental. It's sort of a negative way of saying it, but that the proposed business wouldn't be any worse than the other one was. I don't know how you judge that, but that's
That would be the ZBA's call.
that's their call. So,
But the point being, it's gotta go to ZBA regardless, whether the zoning has changed or not. Which we had not, that hadn't occurred to anyone until we got the legal memo on, I think, September 1st or so, was what reminded us. And I know when I read it, I was like, oh, of course, I should know better as a town planner, former town planner, but I just no one had thought of that. It's gotta go to ZBA anyway.
okay, so if after the planning board meeting, or the public hearing, I mean, they change they're not in favor of it. Can we get this off the warrant?
I don't know.
Well, your next meeting is the 3rd, their hearing's the 4th, so obviously their hearing's after your next meeting. So next Monday you'll have a warrant in front of you that's all ready to go with for signatures. If you, for instance, voted to sign it with some contingency that if planning board didn't support the zoning, it would come off before publication. I'd have to check with Tim if that's procedurally appropriate. Obviously, something can stay on the warrant. You can always pass over it with no action.
Well, that's
It has to be posted 2 weeks.
2 weeks ahead, yeah.
So
14
town
days.
meeting, so it has to be posted by the 10th.
The 7th with the 10th being a holiday.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
That's how I would read it.
Yeah,
Just,
okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
so the idea would be a week from tonight, you would be approving the warrant and then signing it either that night or potentially later that week, but we would need it posted no later than Friday, a week from Friday.
See, I think it would be pretty chaotic at town meeting if the FinCom had been against it and the planning board turns out to change their mind about it, and we have it on the warrant. It won't fly, and it'll just create chaos. So I don't know. I'd like to be able to somehow, if that's the case, get
Take it off the warrant.
axe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I know you're thinking, well, then what? We've wasted all this time. Then what
Yeah,
do we do?
I mean, the building's crumbling as we speak.
Right,
you know?
but why can't we go ahead and still do it with the ZBA is going to be they're going to have to go through both steps anyway. We just don't change the bylaw.
So I'm not sure I understand. So have somebody apply to the ZBA,
Yes.
and
But
then
can they do that if they're not the owner? I mean, isn't the owner?
I think they'd have to have an interest in the property, so I think they'd either have to have an option, they'd have to have gone through the procurement process.
but they'd be doing that without zoning,
Correct.
without a way to do it using zoning. So
That's right.
they'd be looking for ZBA approval, but zoning wouldn't support it. And can the ZBA approve something? Wow. I mean, the ZBA can't approve that a property that doesn't have a business with underlying zoning can now have a business.
Can you hand me the thing because this is, there's a section in the current bylaw that says, use is permitted in Residence C districts with a special permit. Any use determined to be of similar character to the permitted uses of this district and to the intent of this district, said determination to be made by the Board of Appeals following petition of the landowner or owners. So that was something that way back in the spring, someone had suggested, did we even need a zoning amendment? Could there be a finding that it's similar character? The question then is, is office of similar character of the permitted uses in the district? That would be up to the ZBA to find. I think if the zoning was changed, it would be clear. It would be clear that the business or office was allowable by a special permit. But they still, in that case, just need the ZBA finding that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. If the zoning didn't change, they would need two findings from the ZBA. They'd need the finding that it's similar in character to the permitted uses in the district, and they'd also need the other finding. I think Sam's concerned about unintended consequences because of this broad scope of the proposed amendment.
So the question is, does it take one Hail Mary or two to make it happen?
If you interpret it that way, so think about, so the building used to be used where people would go and play cards, have a beer at the Legion. So in its most recent incarnation. You could argue that someone having some kind of consulting business or something where they had two clients come a day, that it would be hard to argue that would be more detrimental to the neighborhood than its previous usage.
No, I can see that logic. I just,
So Archie had stopped by earlier today for a different meeting, and he kind of shared his thoughts on that. So I had sketched out just this afternoon what would the permitting process look like for office use in the Soldiers and Sailors building if the zoning was amended or if the zoning was not amended. So if the zoning's amended, either the select board as the owner or subsequently a successful respondent to the procurement process holding a purchase, sale, or an option of the property could apply for a special permit from the planning board to allow the office use subject to the performance standards in the bylaws, and the ZBA under that section Archie read earlier would need to approve the finding that it's not substantially more detrimental. So that's if the zoning's amended. If the zoning's not amended, the select board or successful respondent to the RFP could petition the ZBA to approve a finding that the proposed use is, quote, of similar character to the permitted uses of the district and to the intent of the district. If such a finding were to be approved by the ZBA, the petitioner could seek a special permit from the planning board to allow the proposed use. And they would also need a second finding from the ZBA of not being substantially more detrimental. So in my view, those are like really similar processes, whether the zoning is amended or not. Yes, there's an additional finding by ZBA, and there's no assurance they would find that, but it's not that different a process. Planning board and ZBA are involved in both scenarios.
Yeah, I just feel like that's, it's already gonna be a challenging project to get somebody interested in.
Yep.
Any element of permitting challenge, I think, is gonna scare people off. But
Well,
I feel like we've committed to this process. We had our working group, we came up with a proposal, the planning board is doing their part, I think, to bail out at this point.
okay, but this
I mean,
was,
maybe it'll get voted down, but,
this particular opinion was,
yeah.
I mean, Sam's opinion about the enforceability, having to enforce
Yeah.
it. Yeah. No, I'm sensitive to that too. I understand. At some point, this whole process just has to play out. We're sort of hanging in purgatory right now, and at some point, we got to go one way or the other.
oh, okay,
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
okay.
I guess the upside of that is if it doesn't pass, there is still a path for a
Right.
respondent.
Right.
I could see a situation where, so just one final comment. So someone doesn't want to go through the process of purchasing something that they don't think will. So the select board, in its infinite lack of wisdom, leases them, gives them an exclusive lease for $10 for 6 months, and they are the controllers of the property for 6 months, whatever it is, for a short amount of time, and so they have
a lease to buy for 6 months. For $10.
something like that, yeah. And so they have a controlling interest in it for 6 months and see whether they can get it. So they don't have to commit an amount of money, substantial amount of money to purchase the place. But they have the controlling interest in it, and if it doesn't work out, it gets pulled back to us. So I could see something like that happening, and then we'd have to do it all over again. Okay.
So
All right.
the proposal of spot zoning that came up in the FinCom meeting, they would still have to go through the ZBA for that, right? Because it's
Unless it was, often overlay zoning is like allowing uses that aren't allowed. In order for it to not require this, it would actually have to have a minimum lot size, and basically, yes, it would still have to go to ZBA.
Yeah.
Unless it was a completely new district that had a minimum lot size
that met
was
that.
8,000 square feet, that had setbacks that were 6 foot side yard or whatever the minimum was,
It just happened to exactly match where this is.
Yeah, it would really have to bend over backwards to avoid the non-conforming issue. That's a good point.
Yeah, but so I mean, some of the comments that were made in that meeting, there weren't any solutions other than that.
That's right. Yeah.
But even that is not.
Yeah, and that's actually important for the other board members who may not. I can't remember if you were there for that night, but when FinCom voted to not recommend it, they did talk a lot about the idea of like an overlay district could have been better, but you make a good point. And I think that would kind of stick out like a sore thumb on the zoning map to have an 8,000 square foot or 8,000 square foot overlay district on this size.
All right.
So in terms of the warrant, it sounds like we're right in the ballpark. So what you'll have a week from tonight is basically a clean version of this.
Okay.
I mean, there's really nothing substantive. Tim's edits.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Letter H. Normally you haven't been presented this. This has just been kind of put together, but there have been some changes to the COVID protocols, so I just wanted to put a red line before you just to make sure, since it is your meeting, town meeting is your meeting, and this will be the first indoor town meeting since COVID hit. So I just want to make sure that we had language that you were comfortable with.
Have you had any feedback?
I don't sort of, go ahead, Rick, sorry.
No, I'm not looking at it right now, I'm just looking at the agenda, but as I read that, it occurred to me, do we want to make a mention of masks? Not a requirement, but just a recommendation, or I don't really want to wear a mask, and I'm sure other people don't either, but is it worth suggesting that people do? I mean, we have no idea, even though you would think if there was something new nasty coming down the road that we would have some idea,
Well, there is a section about face coverings.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's suggesting maybe going further.
right, maybe recommending them. I'm not really comfortable with that for various reasons, but I thought it was something that we ought to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should be respectful of people that are super concerned about it, and
Right. Will the majority of people not wearing face coverings cause some people to decide not to attend the meeting? I don't know.
well, they do have the option of wearing a mask themselves. I mean,
Right.
That's what the planning board
Right.
said.
So I did send this draft language to Paul, about a week ago, and we have first of all, I wanted to make sure that we do in fact have enough face coverings that people request. He confirmed that yes, we do. And as far as the language that says anyone who requests separate seating for medical reasons will be assigned to sit in a designated location. Such attendees will be afforded full access to the proceedings. He left it. He was going to work with Wayne on how the actual layout would work in the annex. So I don't have like a plan back yet, but he's aware that we're making this commitment, and we need to make sure that we make good on that.
Yeah. So, along the lines again of face coverings in that special section, should that also be, because people who would be going there would most likely be people who are concerned about exposure.
Right.
And, it's pretty well demonstrated that one person wearing a mask does somewhat of a job of protecting themselves. Two people everybody wearing a mask, or everybody in close proximity is a, much greater protection. So if you have an area where people are concerned about being protected, maybe that should be all masked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't say.
separate
But
section.
okay. But I guess that isn't in there currently. It doesn't say.
Okay,
that.
so it's just a designated location, which would include only masked individuals or something?
Or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's so. Then the question is, how large is that section?
Well, it's going to need to be as large as it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think I assume they want to put it in probably the back right corner as you're standing on the stage, and maybe leave the door open so it's well ventilated.
Yeah.
Have it cordoned off and have that at least 6 feet away from anything else, and ideally more. We do need to be mindful of there is a minimum 90-person quorum for some of the articles that Tim reminded us of. So, but if the rest of the room isn't socially distanced, I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Everybody was socially distanced. I think that would be a real issue.
Right.
But if it's just that designated seating, that's.
So the within that section they'll be 6 feet apart, or just
I'm not
that
sure.
section?
I'm
How about
not-
just
I
that section from the rest of?
Yeah. No, I don't think we could probably accommodate that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You could do maybe 3 feet. Maybe we'll see what the math shows.
6 feet, it was just an arbitrary number.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not based on any scientific
There's a
fact.
program online that you can type in like numbers and square footage, and it can punch out. So
Angus, I kind of don't like the sentence meeting venue. The risk of contagion is much lower than it was a year ago. So we'll hold the meeting in the 1910 annex. It sounds like, we're going to use the annex because of COVID. No, because we want to have an evening. We're doing it in the annex because we want to have an indoor evening meeting.
Right.
Yeah, not because of COVID.
Do you want to just strike that whole section, that whole meeting
Yeah,
venue section?
Yeah, because the normal is at
Is
the
the
annex. on Monday
The old
nights.
norm.
The
Yeah.
old normal,
Yeah.
yeah.
The new old. Yeah. Do you want to see what you want to read it?
Yeah, that's okay. I looked at it earlier. Thanks.
I don't think there's nothing too get people too worked up on this particular agenda. So I don't think we're gonna have like 300 people there.
Yeah.
We need 90.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, we may have to work to get 90.
Is it 40,000? What's the cost? What's the cost threshold where it goes to 90? Or is it 50,000 appropriation?
No, I think it's something like 20,000.
It's 20.
Oh, it's 20,000. Okay.
We all set with this?
Mhm.
Okay. The Board of Water Commissioners sent us a correspondence related to the article that was directed towards the Board of Water Commissioners at the last town meeting, requesting that from the select board that there should be some areas of to encourage them to work on regional collaboration. So they wanted further clarification of what we meant by that. So that's where we stand. Angus, I think the first thing to do is Angus coincidentally has just gone to a meeting on related to that, and maybe Angus, give us a couple minutes on that.
Yeah, so EPA offered a webinar on water regionalization, or regionalism, I should say, and so it was a Zoom meeting, and I reached out to the Water Commission, and both Bob Janes and Mike Goutet joined me for that here in the room. We watched it up on the screen together. It was really good. We were able to watch it together, chat a bit at the downtimes, and I know Mike felt it was definitely worthwhile. There was an organization, RCAP, that Mike was familiar with over the years, and they offer technical assistance. They offer neutral third-party facilitation. They can, moderate or help negotiate conflict resolution. They describe themselves as kind of conveners or bridge builders among regional, specifically rural, and seem to be very credible and well regarded, not just obviously from the webinar, of course, but also Mike and Tay felt they were credible and well regarded. So that was good. One of my takeaways, there was a huge amount of information shared, including the links that were sent around afterwards. But one thing I thought that kind of stood out for me as a nice way to think about it, they talked about, first of all, they talked about different types of partnerships. There can be informal cooperation, handshake deals where you just help each other out. There's nothing formalized. And that still is a form of regional collaboration. The second is contractual assistance. It's more like what we had up in Hampton, Maine on our wastewater with Hampton and Bangor, long-term contracts. Joint power agencies, which is a much higher level of kind of formalized, a single government operating unit representing multiple municipalities. And then the fourth and most kind of biggest swing toward regionalization would be an ownership transfer of actual establishment of the regional district. They talked about water systems, sustainable water systems having three really major components, each of which are essential, but none of which individually are sufficient to run a water system sustainably, one was technical, one was managerial, and one was financial. And that's a really simple way of putting it, but I thought that was a really good way of helping us think about our situation, because I think in my opinion, even just within the water department and its relationship to the town as a whole, there's technical operations, which, the town has something to offer through the DPW and the kind of cross, the backing on other, digging out when there's a water main, DPW will lend its manpower. Managerial, and then financial. I mean, there's aspects of the financial operations of the water department, for instance, issuing debt or managing debt, or even seeking or managing different grant opportunities that, based on our current staffing structure, do benefit from, if not rely upon, the town per se, not just the water department in isolation. So I thought, that was just kind of a distilled way of thinking about it, but I thought it was useful to me, and I think in the dialogue that I had with Bob and with Mike, to kind of break down a little bit, like, it's not one thing, it's all of those things. And even if a water system is totally capable of handling one or even two of those, is it really handling all three? So that was some of my takeaway from that specific webinar. The case studies were not really on point. They were much larger geographic areas, even though they were rural in focus. They were, county-wide, not to town. But I think, the takeaway was that you had, in some cases, people who initially were very skeptical or very defensive about it, but coming around to say, oh, wow, well, that worked out well, and now we've got, like, these relationships that exist and these resources that we have access to that we never used to. And so kind of a shared interest that seems to have developed. Obviously, they're going to highlight
Success
the
stories.
good case studies.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was only an hour, but I think it was time well spent. I think Mike felt it was time well spent. So some of what I put in the packet goes into a lot more detail on, and that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot of good information. And so for tonight's discussion, Archie had put together some really thoughtful notes, which I think could form an outline of a response to the Water Commission. Do you want me to summarize these, or?
Yeah,
Do
go
you all
ahead.
have them in front of you?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the first was to create a written signed MOU between the Newbury Port and West Newbury Water Departments that codifies the relationship and establishes and stabilizes the long-term accessibility and costs of the water supply to West Newbury from Newbury Port.
I think that's really important.
I totally agree.
So these three indented items under it, they're like
They're all
subsets of
related
that first?
to
Okay.
things related to Newburyport.
Yep.
Did you want to specify those in so one would be cross-train employees from West Newbury and Newburyport who could assist either community in an emergency or worker unavailability issue.
And I mean, and this is something that's more important now than it's ever been because of, COVID things and stuff like that. People just, they're unavailable for a week. That doesn't usually, that didn't happen so much in the past.
Cooperatively pursue additional sources of water for both communities. Newburyport has been protecting and shoring up water supplies and transport areas in West Newbury with limited knowledge or input. I did get some information recently on that, so I'll have to send that to you. It was so much new information I haven't read yet. But on
information
on the idea of the connection from the upper reservoir to the treatment plant,
Okay.
showing the alternative paths that are being considered. The city recently contracted with AECom, and so I had reached out to John Eric last week, and Tom Cusick had sent a detailed response with a bunch of attachments and a bunch of information. I almost dropped it in for tonight, but I didn't, partly because I didn't even have time to even glance at it. But I'll send that around. It's very interesting. I'm sure it's interesting. I haven't read it. It looks.
I mean,
must be
like, it's
interesting.
like,
But it shows all the routes. It's
yeah,
got a map, which to this point
we
have
should
seen.
be informed of that.
Yeah. Yes.
We
And
definitely
then,
should, yeah.
bring Newbury Port into the discussion of West Newbury's potential sources with the possibility of their contribution to West Newbury's plans. So that's all kind of under the first Newbury Port relationship. Second would be to create a similar MOU with Groveland for mutual assistance in an emergency. And I think that's really timely because right now, there's a, issue with the Break Hill water tank where that, in order for that to be repaired, is going to need to be drained and then repaired and then refilled. And during that period of time, I know Mike is in discussions with Groveland about getting backup water during the period of time that the Break Hill tank is being repaired. So I think that's, I think those discussions go on and it's a handshake deal, but it's not, it's why not look at formalizing that? Personnel change, politics change, it's the town's interests need to be secured. And finally, invite other nearby communities to brainstorm over areas of common interest and possibilities for mutual assistance. Seek out opportunities from Mass DEP for assistance or grants that would study regionalization of water systems, etc.
So could we add the SRF to that last, or do you think that's included under there? Because there is a whole category under
There
the
is.
SRF for regionalization.
I'm not sure I understood that, Wendy.
The state revolving fund,
Yeah.
they're really promoting regionalization, so some of
Okay.
the funding going forward will be targeted to that.
Okay.
So, but I mean, that is under Mass DEP, so maybe we could just say including SRF. I think this is a good list. I mean, I think the idea of pointing out to Newburyport their cooperation in developing our water supply could benefit them as well. I mean, they don't have enough water either. So,
Well, they're looking.
Yeah.
They are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
So if the board's in agreement, or if, I don't know if you want to supplement that, but I thought, Archie did a really nice job in doing that. So if that represents your, I can just send that along and say, and it's a continuing dialogue. It's not like,
So
send a letter and then.
So Bob was at the
Circular
seminar,
file.
DEP seminar or webinar,
Yep.
and Mike was, but of course Mike will, 2 months from now, Mike won't be working, or a month from now, Mike won't be working directly for West Newbury. So I just wonder if we make any reference to the material from that webinar, just to make sure everybody on the Board of Water Commissioners gets a little baseline information on regionalization. Because in the past, it doesn't seem as though it's really been seriously considered. What's only been considered is why we can't do it, not why we might do it or how we might do it.
I mean, that webinar is available online now.
Is it available?
Yeah.
Okay, I checked last week and it wasn't yet,
Yeah.
so they must have.
Did you watch it too, Wendy?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, I thought you might have done it for your work.
No, I mean, they have a lot of good webinars.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the prior ones they offer are all
Yeah.
there, but I checked. I think like early last week it hadn't been posted yet. So I haven't actually gotten, other than getting their certificate of participation, they haven't yet emailed around ones.
Oh, they
for a
haven't.
link to the
Oh.
webinar.
So how do we get into that? I'd watch it.
Yeah, well, if you have
Yeah,
the
let's-
link, send it around,
yeah.
yeah.
So what about adding like a report date or like an update when they would update us on how they're progressing on this? Is that
That's
a
good.
thing to ask?
Yeah.
So what's?
I mean, it's like line one is the there's no reason not to start that tomorrow. I mean, that's all these other ones are.
What do we ask for a report back at the
Springtown
Springtown meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ask was made at town
Right.
meeting, so that's
Right.
Okay.
Does anyone recall what the sunset date was for the study? Was it just FY23? I know they're actively working on it. Obviously, the piece on the SRF filing was filed in
What
August, so that's
Oh.
for the study study that was funded in the spring. If that was a 1 year or 2 year.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Because it's all being done, or at least the consultant portion is being done under the context of, there's a lot of things here that don't need a consultant support. But I just signed an AP warrant today, and that included an invoice from Tate and Howard that showed the SRF piece of their work totally complete, because that was submitted, and it showed a much smaller percent complete on some other aspects of the study. But I know they're actively working on the study, but I haven't talked to them in a few weeks. So that was...
But they're not going to be. They're
No, I
not.
just
They're not going to
wonder-
be doing like creating an MOU. They're not.
No,
gonna do that.
no, but I think they have some technical knowledge that. Let's see if it specifies a sunset date. Oh wait, go back to that one again.
This is the reports. This is the report, this is not the.
Yeah, that's the reports. That's not the. Oh, because it was part of the special.
So what's the special is the question.
So just so you guys know, Jim's been, his office has posted to the web now all the town clerk reports of the outcome of town meeting, which had never been on the web. So it's
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah, so you went back a number of years, right?
They're a little hidden, but I'm gonna try to.
Yeah, we gotta make it easier to find.
Yeah.
You put them in the same location, where
It already existed, and there's only a couple of that I need to really kind of put them together, but it's under town clerk, so if you go to the Department of Town Clerk, town meeting materials.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple, 17, 18, and then 21, which I just happen to kind of put all together, but 22 is available under news and announcements for the town clerk, so I'm gonna try to get them all in one location.
yeah,
great.
the goal was to get, because that's, I
Okay,
refer
I'm
to
good,
those
I'm good.
constantly,
Okay, yeah.
and I just went to my server, and it's nice now I have them on the web, so, what are we seeing? Yeah,
You remember our numbers?
I think it might have been earlier. I think it might have been like. Yeah, no, I think it was earlier. Yeah, go back to Article 1 and 2. Yeah. That's it. Article 1, 25, 24. Okay, close of FY 24. All right, so that's good. We'll ask that they provide a report to town meeting in the spring. Yeah, but it's difficult right now because if I'm having a conversation with the mayor or with the city engineer or even this correspondence last week with the water superintendent, like, it's not my authority to, you know, it's great that they provided an update, but we're not the principals, at least under the current
Right.
form of government here. Definitely seems like there'd be something to be gained for the town to try to renegotiate the water rates, among other things.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll put that on letterhead and add the last section that you mentioned, and we'll send that over to water this week. Anything else on that?
I don't think so.
Okay, now, item J, approval of the declaration of trust for the Affordable Housing Trust. So I guess the opinion of council is, though, although it had been approved by town meeting, that the actual trust has to be signed off by the trustees and the select board. Is that?
Yeah, we've known that all along.
Okay.
It couldn't happen until the AG had formally approved the.
So this reflects the bylaw, specifically. But it's pretty much the same. It's just in a legal format.
But this is what kind of sets them as trustees with financial control.
So I move that we approve and sign the declaration of trust as included in the packet.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. All right, next item, the MBTA communities legislation. I've been talking with the planning board chair, and I think I can say she and I both agree that we really feel that we need to make an effort to prepare an action plan by the end of January for this board's review and consideration. You may approve it, you may not approve it, but we definitely feel, we are mandated by the state, and we feel that we need to kind of make our best effort to bring something forward. We recognize that, 4 months is not enough time to do a thorough public outreach. We don't even have anything for people to respond to, and we also recognize that the form the state has provided really does try to get at specific locations, which we knew it would. That's going to be really, really difficult to do in any credible way, but we feel like we've got to at least make the effort, because they've really provided so many breadcrumbs to kind of navigate the process that if, and talking about all this free technical assistance and so on and so forth, that if we don't make the effort, it's really not going to, even though we all know how busy we are and that we would have plenty of other things to spend our time on in the next 4 months, it just wouldn't go over well to not at least have made a serious effort.
Wasn't there a one-stop grant applied for?
There is, and that was part of what we, thinking back, a couple of months, we put in the one-stop grant in the spring. They're not going to announce that until October or November. Even if we got that grant, we wouldn't be able to procure a consultant by January 31st, or at best the ink would be barely dry on a contract. We certainly couldn't.
We can give them a week to make
the planning process on that. So.
Plus, we'll be competing against every other town that.
Well, I think, I've been saying all along, I think the state's going to give those grants to the RPAs and task them with doing, MBTA communities plans for all their towns in their region. I don't think they're gonna be giving grants to small towns to do these individually. I don't think they think that way. They're gonna wanna get sections of the map and not like little towns, in their view, little towns, so. So yeah, I talked at length with Ann. We've talked a couple of times, but I think it was early last week, and we just felt like it's not going to be easy, and we don't know if we can come up with something that warrants approval, but we have to try, because most of the aspects of the template are actually pretty simple. It's really the challenging part is going to be identifying locations. That's good. That's always going to be the challenging part. But we thought, you know, if nothing else, it could help advance community understanding of why different forms of housing are not inherently bad. They're not inherently destructive or damaging. I mean, there are real benefits to having a range of housing types in a community, and so there could be some good to come out of, you know, some process to help maybe break down conceptions people have about the word density is seen as a 4-letter word. It's not. There's plenty of very high quality, attractive, great places to live that are, you know, higher density. So, you know, we felt we'd try to, you know, do the best we could in terms of who actually does that work. That's a challenge. I know, you know, we've got the Affordable Housing Trust meeting later this month. This would be a great topic to include on their agenda, get them up the learning curve. To the extent they can help, we certainly welcome help.
Yep.
We'll be hiring presumably a new town planner who could be starting maybe within a month or 5 weeks. So we'll have some capacity there.
I don't know if you saw, they're doing a series of like lunchtime webinars over the next 8 weeks.
I did.
I mean, I signed up for them. I'll let you know if they're any good. But
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's a time issue. I thought it was kind of presumptuous that, you know, they send this out as if people have
I know.
time to go.
What's at lunch?
Oh, 8 webinars. Oh, it's at lunch. Yeah.
When's the last time you had lunch at noon? Right.
Well, I was going to say lunchtime webinar, so that's what, 4:30 or
I was
5?
gonna say, he walks out of here and says, "Oh, I'm going to get my lunch." I say, "I guess that's not lunch anymore."
I mean, they looked interesting.
Yeah.
It's just the time available. But yeah, I think the template that the state provided it's all very easy except for the hard part. So I think but you know, it's not like you're starting with a blank sheet of paper. They've kind of like all these breadcrumbs they've left. Like it's they've kind of made it really hard. It's we don't have time to do it. It's not that we don't have time. We don't have time to do a serious community process to try to build consensus around transformative land use policy that could dramatically change, you know, the form of development that's allowed in this town. We don't have time to do that, but it's not, I couldn't look at that template and say we don't have time to fill out the template. What we don't have time for is the community process.
Is realistically coming up with a piece of land. We haven't decided which hill we should die on.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like whatever is identified is going to just serve to, you know, coalesce opposition.
Right.
And it is actually self-defeating of the state's objectives.
Right.
Totally counterproductive for them to force this timeline.
Yeah.
But if we make it, you know, a real, make an effort, and it's something in January and it's not ready, and you guys don't vote it, that's not, we shouldn't feel like we failed, you know, I think we've done our job. But if we don't at least bring something forward, I think that's hard to justify.
So what are the parameters we're working with? 87 units? And what about the mileage or the acres? Is it 15?
15
I think
per acre.
yeah, 15 per acre, right?
Yeah.
So 85, you know, so 6 acres essentially. In theory, 6 acres could do that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if the new high rises that they built right by the train station in Newburyport, they must have been successful because this summer they built they're
The second
starting
one.
the second one.
Yeah.
So they obviously sold the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
What
those
those
actually
go
are pretty
for?
hot properties.
Yeah.
Aren't those rental? I think those are apartments. Not that it mattered, I just. but I
Well,
think-
whatever. But I
thought
mean,
they were condos. You think they were apartments?
I
could
thought
be
they
wrong.
were condos.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
alright, okay.
But they
When we were in the.
obviously,
Yeah, alright.
if they're going to phase two, it obviously phase one financially worked out. Yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know that we will, one way or the other, by hook or by crook, they say, we'll find the time to do something in the next few months. So I think Affordable Housing Trust Committee is a great place to talk about this in more detail. And they can.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could dovetail the two efforts.
Yeah, even though it's not an inherently affordable housing.
Right. But it's a
proposal,
different
but
style.
It would allow us to apply the existing bylaw, the 10%, so it does have that component.
They're apartments, by the way.
They are apartments. Interesting.
Oh, they are okay.
They're kind of swanky.
Yeah. The modern apartment living at Rails End.
Rails End.
Rails
That's
End.
great. Great name.
Does it say how much they rent for?
I don't think that is pay rent is an option on here, but I don't think it tells you. No, you need to already have set something up. Yeah, you can apply. We can find out.
Well, they're probably readjusting rents every week based
Yeah.
on demand.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna.
Of course, there you truly have an MBTA community.
Yeah, it's
Right,
truly
with an MBTA.
transit-oriented
Yeah, I
development.
mean, the train is right there, you know.
Yeah, where you could have a one-car household.
Right.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Or no
theoretically,
car.
a no-car house.
Or a zero.
Yeah, right there with the bike lane to
Yeah.
Newburyport.
Just go to Metsy's every day.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So Jim, were you recording the meeting to do these minutes? I'm assuming you did the minutes for the sidewalk?
No,
No?
that was purely based off of Angus and my notes.
Really?
We're very good.
detailed.
We're very good.
I think it's
Whatever he missed, I filled in. Whatever I missed, he filled in. It worked out
Awesome.
very well. I actually did think about it, but I was like, I don't want to record this just in case.
I do have a question on the second sentence. Visualize the area bounties. Should that be boundaries?
This is my first time writing out minutes, man. Come on.
I just wondered if there was a term I wasn't familiar with.
Which line was this?
Line 2.
Line 2. I believe that was supposed to be boundaries.
Okay.
Yes. Boundaries. I probably just hit spell check. Yeah, that's what, because I misspelled it, and the first word is bounties.
Oh.
Instead of boundaries.
Yeah, so minor on page 108 said reiterated conversation with DPW director felt marked off area topsoil would be scrapped up as opposed to scraped up.
Scraped up, got it.
So I thought the meeting went well.
Mhm.
I thought there was going to be like 50 people there.
Right.
And
Right. With pitchforks.
we outnumbered them.
Yeah.
I think that kind of intimidated them a little bit. But wasn't anybody else there.
Well, what it suggested to me was that the consensus maybe was other than the neighborhood consensus was maybe not as clear as was suggested.
But I think ultimately we got everybody, at least at the moment,
Well, I think if we put signs along the
together.
perimeter, that would be good.
I definitely think people's understanding of the forestry requirements was significantly enhanced by the meeting.
Yeah.
People understood that's a legal obligation, and
Yep.
that the current owners are committed to meet their legal obligations in a way that perhaps the prior owners weren't as focused on.
But I think they pictured like giant logging trucks moving through there and stuff like that. Yeah,
That's what I assumed.
Yeah,
I don't know,
like those big claw
I come from the
things
city, I
that
don't know what.
rip the trees out.
And without the background, I mean, that was a legitimate concern, not knowing anything at all about it, that I understand being concerned about that. Sorry, I just got to fix my shoe. I came untied. I was gonna stand up
The
next
only
time and
thing I
trip on my
didn't
foot.
understand is why they said why can't a truck go under the wires? Those wires are really high.
There's a ravine there.
It's really
Yeah.
steep.
And
It's
there's a
not the
stream.
wires,
There's actually a wetland way out there, and that wetland feeds into a stream, which then is the stream that runs down alongside the Cortland Lane development.
Okay.
And it's 20 or 30 foot deep. Estimate. I've been out there. I've walked across it.
Okay.
And it's,
Does it come out down by? Does it go all the way to the river?
Oh, the stream goes out. It crosses right down by the junction between River Road and Coffin.
Okay.
That little triangle.
Okay.
I mean, there may be other tributaries to that stream, but there's part of it that goes down through that gully or ravine.
So did Wayne have any comments about the discussion? Did you talk to him about it? The idea of putting, some signage along the boundary just to say private property.
I actually haven't talked with him about it, so.
It doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal.
So now I corrected that.
Yeah, that would be good, just so he has the detail right up, and then we'll talk about it.
All right, I move to approve the minutes of the September 15th meeting as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
How about the other ones?
Oh, there's one I had a question on. Now I'm not gonna be able to find it.
And the February 14th minutes, I had a couple of things.
That was a very difficult meeting to listen to.
Yeah.
The audio was very, very bad.
Really?
So the on page 116. So I think I just jumped over the previous minutes, but I didn't get a chance to make notes from that. But I did make a couple notes from this one. And yeah, on page.
I don't have
Once-
page numbers.
No, I think we'll put page numbers on.
If you go to he's looking at the web version.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you look at the one under the select board packet,
Okay.
those have Rebecca added in page numbers, what she posted.
Okay, all right. So anyway, this is item letter I, item I, referral of proposed FY23 capital articles, capital improvements committee.
Yes.
There's a reference to a page rental study. Well, maybe it was supposed to be page school study. It says page rental study here, but maybe that was
Yeah, that's
the
supposed to be
page
page school.
school study. Okay, all right, yeah. So there's that, and then in J, just a few lines down, names: Brad Dorr, Bill Brown, Nancy Powell, Carol Decker, and Sue Stasiuk. STASIUK, or ZIUK.
Spell that again.
STAZIUK.
It's interesting how these older minutes have something relevant to the discussion, like about
It's really weird.
DPW project managers.
It's really weird. She's like, it's like the thing
Converging.
we're talking about, it's just like,
I can't find the question I had now, but it was, I don't think it was a big deal. It was just,
That meeting got over at 11:40.
I think that was the one I wasn't at. No, I was good. Yeah, I was in the hospital for that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't have any notes for Rebecca. I couldn't help her at all. So
Well, she
whatever
did a
you
pretty
can
good
read off
job.
Agnes's-
Yeah.
all right, so I move to approve the meeting minutes of September 1st as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I move to approve the minutes of February 14th as revised.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, no action needed on item M. I just wanted to make just the letter was sent to DOT regarding the signage.
I'm still getting emails from
Oh,
residents. I'm not sure what to, I'm just thanking them, but
Are they generally consistent with?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
feedback? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can, now that the letter's in the posted packet, maybe we could let them know this is the letter that was sent. And
okay.
something like
Okay.
that.
So just send this to everybody that sent a letter? That would be,
Yeah, you could just send them the link to the packet and just
Yeah.
say, hey, it begins on page whatever.
Okay.
Just so they have some closure.
okay.
We could just send you the letter separately if you want. So
Yeah, could you do that?
Yeah,
And then I'll
yeah,
just
good,
send
alright.
that to them. Thanks. Yeah, I'm also getting emails from people from Merrimack, I think, who are just trying to get some
Trying to get
answers,
info?
you know?
Oh, on the bridge?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Yeah, I haven't received any new information about when it's likely.
they've been working like 6 to 6 every day of the week.
Wow.
Yeah, but nothing's happening.
All right, in terms of hiring processes,
I walked out on it as far as I could.
with
It
planning,
looked
we've got two finalist candidates for the town planner position who will be interviewed next Tuesday at the planning board. Water, we have hired new operator, Jason Howard, who's going to begin the next week or so. And we have a conditional offer to Mark Marlowe to be the new superintendent upon securing the necessary license. With regard to finance, the board's aware we posted the town accountant position.
Thanks, Jen. Something corrected spelling on the name.
Stu's, that's funny. Stu sounds like.
Oh, I gave you, I said Z, didn't I? It's an S, yeah, I don't know. Thanks, Jen. I should know, you know?
And
I
so we
thought-
posted the town accountant position.
I don't know why we had metal crap, you know?
And we've also posted the DPW licensed operator position, the vacancy that's created with Marlowe switching back to the water department. So, fair amount going on with personnel.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Don't jinx it.
Nothing Move to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Well, maybe.
Thanks. Yeah, I knew when we got our notice of our house lease not being renewed, I had put myself on the waiting list. That's why I never tried to.
Oh,
We were on a waiting list. There were no units available.
really?
Did
And
you
was that
get,
with the
did you
first
get a
building?
look?
No.
Oh,
I think they went pretty fast.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was,
yeah.
and I never got, I think I got some acknowledgement that we were on the list, but I don't think I've ever thought to take myself off the list, so I've never heard anything, so I think it's pretty popular.
So do you know if they were like 2 or 3 bedroom or what? Were they all different?